provide. I'll have to talk to the gym later about it. I don't know. And the guys in the next room, they had this big old weightlifting thing today, so they're in the next room. So you might hear some things clanking every once in a while. Today's show is special in that my family is here today. Can they see Maggie? There she is. So we're all here today, and we are going to kind of just talk to each other, Isaac and I especially. We're going to just talk about our journey into this Hebraic walk from where we came to where we are right now. So I know that there's not many of you that know our history. I know some, but I don't know if you know the whole story. So we decided that we've had people ask us before for our story. They want to know who we are and why we think we can say anything to this movement. So we're going to share our story today. But we're also going to sing some songs. So hopefully you guys have your candles lit for Hanukkah today and maybe some cookies. I've got some cookies today, and we've got some hot drinks. So we're just going to kind of kick back and chill, if that's okay with you guys. So what is the chances of that? Oh my gosh.
What are they doing?
I don't know what they're doing. Oh, look. I think they're done. I'm going to wait for Isaac. He's going to play with me today. Yay! I'm so excited. So Shabbat Shalom. Happy Hanukkah. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Hanukkah. All right. Give me an intro. Don't build your house on a sandy land. No. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might be kind of nice, but you have to build it twice, so you'll have to build your house once more. You better build on the rock. Clap, clap. You better build on the solid rock. Oh, the storms may come and go, but the peace of Yahweh you will know. Awesome. All right, let's do that one. So you're just going to get a peek into our life right now, because we're just going to, do what we normally do. Let's do it. Let's do the top one again, and then go into the second one. Okay? Don't build your house on the sandy land. No. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might be kind of nice, but you'll have to build it twice, so you'll have to build your house once more. You better build on the rock. Make a good foundation on a solid spot. Oh, the storms may come and go, but the peace of Yahweh you will know. Yay! Here we go to the second verse. The verse I wrote last week. Here we go. Don't live your life like the pagan does. No. Don't live it like your neighbors. Well, they celebrate the pagan days, and Christians aren't living any cleaner. You gotta live set apart. You gotta live free from all those days. Well, you gotta turn your back on Christmas time and turn towards Hanukkah. I love that verse. Okay, so I made that verse up this week as I was walking. Isaac has a little job nearby helping somebody fix their bed, one of the rooms up for their new baby coming along, and so
The baby room.
it's the baby room, and so he's helping remodel it, and so I was walking to go see him, and I was humming this song, and I thought, this is what it needs. It needs a Hanukkah twist to it. So I like that. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This dark time of year, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Chanukah. On day one is a gift of love. On day two, peace came from above. On day 3, watched and prayed. On day 4, he showed me the way. On day 5, I saw my sin. On day 6, I learned to forgive. On Shabbat, I took the rest and let my little light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yes, oh this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This guiding you whoops, that's gonna be a little tough. Dedicated to guiding you onto that narrow path, and dedicated to moving your head knowledge into heart knowledge. And I want to help you fall in love with the King again. I want to help you fall in love with Papa again, and remember your first love. And I also want to let you know it's all going to be okay, and this movement is just way too serious, so we're going to add a little lighthearted happiness to it at the same time as obeying. So that is what we are dedicating to doing with this show. This is our 4th show, and I think this is our new location, although I've got to talk to the lady about internet. So the internet's not working so good today, so we're going to have to figure that out. So bear with us. Let's see. We're going to sing Family. Family. Can you sing that? Final song. It's called Yeah, I Give You My Heart. It is a song by Hillsong, but I love it. It's a good Hanukkah song. I'm going to put this way just a little bit. Mm-hmm. There we go. So I don't... Okay. Here. I mean, I've changed the words for it to be a Hanukkah song. Oh, thank you. This is my desire, this Hanukkah. Worship you. All I have within me, I give to you. All that I will need is in you. October for Sukkot.
First part of October.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sukkot.
And so when we came back, Isaac was literally in bed for, I think it was 3 days.
3 days with jet lag.
Yeah, he didn't feel good at all.
Oh, I was sick.
Yeah. Well, it took us 36 hours to get home from Israel, just in travel. And it was nasty, wasn't it, girls?
Yeah, it was.
Because it was like the turbulence and just the no sleep and everything was really, really tough. It was a bad thing. So when we came home, he was in bed for 3 days, but he's with nausea, and that hasn't gone away.
Yeah, the headaches. It was bad headaches too at the first couple days. That's gone.
Yeah.
But I got this recurring,
So we're gonna put
nausea thing. Feels like I'm still on the plane.
Maybe we weren't supposed to leave. Maybe we're supposed to stay there.
Maybe if we go back.
If we go back, it'll go away.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that in front here, and then Maggie has some things that we're going to also just lay before the King here. So we're gonna do that throughout the course of the day today. So if you have something that I need to know about and you'd like to put before Papa, then please let me know. I'm gonna just pray for those that I know about right now. I had a fabulous conversation with the bank teller and the hip hop, Hadassah's hip hop, the owner of the hip hop.
The studio.
The studio, thank you. So, I don't know about you girls, but when you guys are going around town doing your stuff this time of year, I don't know if you run into issues where you end up like, sometimes I tell the jingle bellers at the stores, I'm like, talk to the sparkle. I'm like, don't say it. I get to them before they get to me. I'm like, don't say it. I celebrate Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. But sometimes I get into a situation where I just have to say something. And I have to show them that I can't make an agreement with what they're saying. So I was at the bank, and the bank teller was going to put my little withdrawal in the bank slip, the bank envelopes that have the holiday stuff on them. And of course, I can't take that. I just don't. And so I say, do you have an envelope that is plain? I can't have that. And she looks at me like cross-eyed, like,
are you mad?
Like, what? Are you totally mad? And I said, well, I just can't have that because it's got holiday stuff on it. And she looked at me and she goes, okay. So she gets her key and she goes out of her booth to the back to get one. And as she's going, she throws her hands up in the air and she says, I thought Hanukkah and Christmas were the same thing. And I said, no, they're not. And by that time, she's like on the other side of the bank. And I said, I'll tell you in a second. So she comes back. There's no line at that point. She comes back. And so then I give her the lowdown real fast because I said, are you interested? And she said, yeah. So I give her the lowdown. I'm like, the two, Hanukkah and Christmas, can't live together, exist in the same room. And so I told her, and I did not realize that there was a line forming behind me from the teller right where I was all the way to the back door. I turned and looked, and I turned back to her. I said, I'm so sorry. And she said, don't worry about it. Finish. And so I finished, and then I left. And I don't know. You probably have stuff like that happen as well. But the hip-hop guy, that was cool. That was awesome. The hip-hop guy. Because Hadassah, I dropped her off for dance. And I went and did some errands, and then I came back. And there was a tree. There's everything in the
studio's all decorated. And the owner is the guy, and he wears the holiday sweaters and everything.
This is the only guy that I know that wears the holiday sweaters. Ugh. So anyway, so I go in there and, I threw all this stuff and I go in and I'm looking into the room where Hadassah's dancing. And Hadassah, you're dancing. When you get down with that one song, you're in the corner and you're like this, right?
Yeah, like that.
She was covering her ears up. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I realized what was going on pretty quickly. And I opened up the door into the studio just a little bit, and they were playing Jingle Bells. And I was like, oh, that's why. So I motioned to Hadassah. I said, you can come out if you want. And at that point, it was her turn to go dance, so she went and danced, and then the class was over. And so Hadassah and I waited afterwards to go talk to the teacher, and I said, I explained why Hadassah was doing this, because it was a holiday song. And she goes, well, it was kind of just a winter song. It wasn't really a Christmas song. And I said, yeah, but it comes out at this time of year. It's dedicated to this holiday, and we don't want the jingles in our head, so that's why she was doing this. And she goes, oh, okay, I grew up that way. And I think it was kind of basically like, yeah, I grew up religious too, or something. And anyway, but I asked her, I said, well, next week will you be playing that music again? And she says, yeah. I said, okay, well, we'll figure out whether she can come or not. So I went to the desk to pay my bill, and there's the owner standing there, and I paid it, and I'm going to pay $50 for one class this month. And I'm like, oh. And so, but I said...
because of the ones we're missing for our holiday, and then
right.
The one you may have to skip
right.
on account of theirs.
Well, and then they're skipping that week, their week. So we're like one class. Anyway, so he was flipping through the book trying to find Hadassah's name as we're talking, and I said, yeah, she may not come next week because of the Christmas music that you're playing, that the teacher's playing. And he's like, he's flipping through the book. He knows what her name is, but he's like in a daze, and he doesn't quite know what he's looking for because he's thinking. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so she's playing Christmas music in the class? And I said, yeah. And he was thinking about it, and then he's like, well, what's wrong with Christmas? And I went, okay. Like,
this is such a long story.
I know, sorry. And the door comes wide open. and no, and literally, he's standing there looking at me serious, and I went, okay, well, you want to really know? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, Christmas is a pagan. Oh, I know that. Okay, so... Jesus wasn't born on December 4th. I know that. And I look at him, I'm like, okay, if you know that, then why are you... And he's like, well, that's not what it means to me. I think it's okay if we make it about Christ. And I went, okay, for one, it's not about what we think. It's about what Yahweh thinks, what the Creator thinks. And I said, in the scriptures, and I went on. And you know I can go on. So he looked at me, and I swear he had red, tearing up. I swear he was tearing up in his eyes. This big, beefy guy. And he's tearing up in his eyes. And he said, are you saying X? And I would say yes. And he would agree with me. And he understood what I was saying. But I didn't know. There was a line forming back behind me again. And it was dead quiet in there, and here I was going, probably for 15 minutes or so I was talking to him, because he was asking questions and everything. Right. So that was a really good conversation, and I prayed for him afterwards. What can you do? I mean, like, he looked at me and said, that must be so hard because you're all alone. And I went, yeah, you make some pretty hard choices when you come out and you choose to not celebrate and do what everyone else is doing. That's why I like my song. Don't live your life like the pagan does. No, don't live it like your neighbor. Well, they celebrate the pagan days, and Christians aren't living any cleaner. I love that song. You gotta live set apart. Shall I go on? You gotta live free from all those days. Well, you gotta turn your back on Christmas time and turn towards Chanukah. Okay, well, there you go. That's my stories for the week. So I want you to know that, ladies, that repentance is not what you know. Do you guys get that? Repentance is not what you know. Okay, so just because you study, and you get all truth in your head, and you understand that I'm not supposed to do this, this, and this, and this, and it's in your head, but you don't actually not do this, this, and this, that's not repentance. So it's not about what you know, because that's kind of a Greek, you know, but the Hebraic understanding of repentance is changing what you do.
Your actions.
The action.
Well,
It's a verb.
Well, repent means you teshuva. But here's the pagan holidays.
There you go.
This way, and there's the Papa's feast that way.
Yep.
But don't go that way. Turn from there and go here, and then do Papa's feast.
Yay! That's good, Hadassah.
So there's it's
Can you
thankful for you.
Yeah, so we've been watching what's called Edwardian Farm, and it's cool because it takes you back and you get to see how they did things. So we used to live in a off-grid situation in the teepee, and we learned processes by which to take care of our waste and how to deal with get hot water and all this other stuff in a way that our pioneer fathers used to do, basically. But over in England, they had things to deal with that we didn't. So we're interested in that, and we're watching this show, and they basically, what do they do? Pray to the trees? What was that? For the harvest?
Yeah.
Encouraging the trees
They were-
to produce apples.
They were wassailing the trees.
They were wassailing the trees. So the holiday drink that's called wassail, I think, like it's basically spiced cider. I guess that I had never researched where this came from when I adopted it into, it's one of the foods that we serve for Hanukkah, like literally like one of the drinks. And I didn't know that wassail actually has a history of they take the drink, and they did it on the show. That's why I was like stunned. I was like, oh, okay, we're changing that. We're not doing that anymore. But they took the drink, and they had a little funky saying, and then they prayed to the tree, basically, and prayed that it would have a good year of harvest. And then they dipped bread in the wassail and put it on the branch.
Yeah.
Is that right?
The birds would come.
So that the little
so that
birdies
they
would come
sing
and
make
get
the tree
drunk.
happy.
Oh!
And then they'd sing a lot, and then the tree would be so happy.
So they dipped the bread in the wassail, put it on the tree so that the birdies would come, drink, eat it, get drunk, sing, so that the tree would be happy?
Because the tree likes the little birds.
Because the tree likes little birds. Okay, so I'm pointing this out because I just learned that wassail isn't probably something that a Hebrew should be participating in.
And I paused it before that part started and said, Rebekah, are you sure you want to watch this? Because it might change your life.
So now we will have that, we will have apple cider with cinnamon and cloves, but it's going to be called spiced cider. It's not going to have any connotation to wassail. So just so you know, that's how I process stuff. It's that, you just walk through life and you go, well, I don't know, like, okay, you can't research everything. How would you ever have any time to do anything if you research absolutely everything? You just let the rock bring it to you when it's time. So I guess it was time for us. Okay, I have one other thing I want to show you before we talk about our story. During Hanukkah. Okay, so this is the... Oh, is it backwards? Oh, okay, that's all right. We'll fix it later. But in there... There we go. Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. Oh, that's cool. A split screen. So I wanted to try that this show. So basically, this is the lab book that the girls did while they were at the teepee. And I made it so that it would help them look at all the different aspects of Hanukkah. Like, we're going to study light. We're going to look in the Torah for verses about light and dedication. And the color pictures of Yeshua. And then we talked about his conception during Hanukkah. What's up? There you go. Oh, this way. There you go. We looked at shadow pictures, and so that we got to show them what shadow pictures there are. And then we looked at the temple and the articles in the temple. And then we looked at today, like, where is Yahweh's temple today? That's in our hearts. So this was a really cool thing that we did while we were in the teepee. And then I had them write out what our traditions are so they wouldn't forget. Let me show you the front of the book. Right there. And then I had them do like Hanukkah words for vocabulary. I had them make a little apocrypha book and kind of summarize the story there, and a little calendar. It opens up here. Oh, you've got those, yeah. Show them. Where does those go? Right here?
I have also the
Little
the flashcards that we do, like all that right there.
Yeah, let's put them in here, Hadassah. Put them back right here. Yeah, right there. So this kept them busy for a long time, and it was something to keep their head in Hanukkah. You know, you have the battle between good and evil. It looks like it stopped. But look, you have the battle between good and evil. You have where did this happen? You know, where did it happen in the planet? So anyway, I think this is a really cool idea, and I just wanted to show you. It takes a little creativity. We studied the number 8. I have character cards. The characters right here. Oh, this is like. I also had. Well, no, I don't. Oh, the soliloquies. So the kids wrote out the prayers of like Judah Maccabee and the Mattathias. They're so amazing, the prayers. Those are their important Hanukkah soliloquies. So there you have it. I just thought I would show you. Thank you, Maggie. But I'm going to share our story, and I think it's pretty awesome. So I told them last night over our Shabbat dinner, guess what we're doing tomorrow? And they looked at me like, really? Oh, no.
And then I was explaining what we did since we lived in the old house.
Yeah. So she like walked us through our whole journey.
So talked all about that.
So we're going to start kind of a little before that, Hadassah. We're going to start before. So Isaac and I have known each other for a very long time.
Much longer than we haven't.
Much longer than we haven't known each other, yes.
Yeah.
So we both were Seventh-day Adventists, grew up in that system. You're fourth generation Adventist?
Third.
You're third generation Adventist. I think I'm third generation as well. I thought you were fourth.
Well, my grandpa converted when my dad was very small.
Okay. Grandpa.
So
okay.
I think
All
that's
right.
third.
So we grew up in the Portland metro area in Oregon,
Yep.
Washington. And because you are in a system like that, it's pretty worldwide, so there is a lot of potential for meeting people who believe the same. And we went to all private schools, all Seventh-day Adventist schools. You went
from kindergarten to college.
Kindergarten, college, 19 years, both of us, something like that, of indoctrination in the Seventh-day Adventist world.
Yeah.
But one thing we did, I mean, not absolutely everything is bad about the Seventh-day Adventist Church by any means. They keep Shabbat, basically, the weekly Shabbat. They miss all the high Shabbats. They miss all the feast days, and they definitely keep all the pagan days. But we at least knew about the rhythm of Shabbat on Saturday. So Friday night to Saturday night. But one thing, like I say all the time when I grew up, it was, when is sunset? Because that's when the fun started in my house. Sunset was the time when the music could come back on, the TV went on, the movie went on, the hamburgers were made, the ice cream came out, and the friends came over, and that's when it got fun. So when we started walking this together later on, we decided to make Shabbat the funnest day and make sunset mean dishes. We have to do dishes now. We have to clean up and go to bed. There was basically no fun. I really just wanted to set the day. I wanted to make my girls really taste the day as being sweet on their mouth when they were little, and frankly, it was easier when they were little. All right, so we grew up Seventh-day Adventist. We're both came from long generation of that, and we were best friends in college. We met when we were 14, and we met at Gladstone camp meeting. Basically, I think we met. Yeah, I think that's so. At camp meeting, which is much like Sukkot, really.
Yeah, it's like a week-long,
10 days.
Giant tent, like revival get-together.
Yeah.
Thousands of people. It was very cool.
Yeah, they would it was in Portland, so the Gladstone camp meeting, and literally people would come to camp for 10 days, moms and kids. They'd stay all week long while dads went to work or whatnot, or they'd get a whole week off and 10 days off, and you would have about 8,000 people camping together in downtown. I mean, just like literally in the urban center, you had 8,000 people during the week. Camping, and then you had on the weekends it would fluctuate. What do you call it when it surges? It surged to 13,000 on the weekends. So, and it felt so safe. And I write about it. I wrote about my camp meeting experience because I love it so much. I wrote about it in my fall feast handbook. When it comes to Sukkot, I just truly know that Sukkot was supposed to be like that. Anyway, we felt safe. You could walk around, you could meet people, and as teenagers, you could just, it was neat. There's ice cream parlor, there's an outdoor ice cream parlor, and a Schamburger booth, and I don't know if any of you know what a Schamburger is.
Adventists were mostly vegetarian at that time. Yeah,
and so no burgers, no hamburgers, but you could do Schamburgers or veggie burgers.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so we had a cabin, so there was some people that owned cabins there and other people that kind of owned tent cabins. And so his family had a tent cabin and our family had a cabin, and it had a little loft in it. And I remember looking out the window of the loft and seeing this little blonde boy across the way wearing a pink shirt. It was cute. It was so cute. Anyway, fell in love with him there, and then just kind of came in and out of each other's lives until we got to college and just became best friends in college. And I won't go down the drama trail for you, but became best friends in college, and then ended up getting married much later. We were 28.
Yeah, friends all through college. We never dated.
Never dated.
Though, in college.
You dated my best friend and I dated yours.
Yeah.
Your best friend.
Yep.
Because you didn't want me. Back then. No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, I'm not kidding. We were best friends, and that's kind of how it was going to be until we got older, and then
I was still hung up on my sweet 16, and it took a number of years to get over that.
Yeah.
But we stayed friends after college.
Yeah.
And then Rebekah was living in Coeur d'Alene, and one year it just
happened to be
kind of came over to go skiing and on her birthday, which was our tradition. And one year something just kind of shifted or kind of clicked.
Yeah, we were 28.
Yeah.
28. I had been through so much up to that point. But my point, to stay on track here, is that we were Seventh-day Adventists. I was in the church, like I had done missionary service over to Malaysia, and I had spent a year as youth task force, an assistant task force. What do you call that? An assistant youth director. I assisted the youth director, whatever, in the Upper Columbia Conference office there in Spokane. So I worked at summer camp for many, many, many years. I was big into youth ministry, and when we got married, I was in front a lot. I was on stage a lot. I was involved in youth ministry in the church, praise service. I even spoke a lot. I was chaplain of this and that, and I did, when the girls were little, I was in charge of the kindergarten and cradle departments. You remember those, Maggie? Yeah. I built huge sets of rain rainforest sets and polar bear sets and Arctic sets, and I don't know what was. I just do these crazy big sets for the kids. Anyway,
yeah, so Rebekah's like very non-traditional, like iconoclast, and always has been. And so even then, we would build these amazing like environments in the classroom. Like one time we trucked in like a ton of sand. We brought in through the church doors in wheelbarrows. And put plastic down in one whole end of the building, and we created this huge sandbox, or a whole beach environment, like a tropical thing.
Yeah, and then
with
on the
palm
wall,
tree and
what did I have? I said Jesus is hot or something like that. I don't know. It was for the little kids, and I just really wanted them to fall in love with the King and see him in a different way than just on paper. So I was big into that. So my point is that I was very, very heavily into the church. I ended up after I worked at camp, and he worked at camp too in the winter when we got married. So he was year round. I was only summer staff for a while, and then I moved to the youth department and whatnot. But and then for 10 years, I would come back to the camp. Maybe it was 10, maybe it was more like 7. But I keep coming back to the camp to help, and many different camps to help them with their song dramas or with their, I would help direct their dramas for that summer, and then, trying to help train the new ones coming up. So my point is that I was just heavy in the church. I could go anywhere in the country and walk into a Seventh-day Adventist church, and I was sure to know someone. And I did. I conventioned a lot with a company I had called Ink Time. I had prior to us getting married, and then throughout some of our marriage, I was working with Christian camps across the country, doing all their brochures and graphics and all their advertising and stuff. So I guess my point is that we were married, we were equally yoked when we were married because we were in the same church. Okay, bye, Mike. We're in the same church, same religion. We believe the same, basically. And our families were respected in the church and held positions in the church. So I've had people, just as a side note, I've had people look at me and go, how did you come out? I mean, like, of all people, I have friends that say, I can't believe that you are not doing this anymore, not a Seventh-day Adventist anymore. Like, how did that happen? Because I was pretty deep in there. But one thing about my journey has always been, I've always been in love with the King. I was born in love with the King. I was just born seeking them. So, within the context of what I knew, I was always on the edge. I was always kind of like questioning a little bit and kind of like, but you were telling me about this the other day. You were kind of trying to explain, like, how did that, because people liked me because I was kind of like pushing the edge of.
Yeah, you weren't never into empty traditions or rituals. You always came at it from the heart and needed a real, genuine, authentic experience.
Yeah, authentic.
And you were always after the love. Where's the love and where's Papa's heart? Right. And you were always like that. I think she was just born that way.
Yeah, and I think people liked me in the church environment because I brought a fresh approach to stuff.
Yeah, people who were always feeling like there must be something more,
Yeah.
would kind of gravitate towards Rebekah, at least during those times of semi-awakening in their own life, when something was stirring, those times, don't come that often. But when they did, then they kind of gravitate towards Rebekah to find out what the secret was. And
yeah, but when we came out, then it was then that became not good. I was always on the edge, and everybody thought, oh, that's so cool. But I was still within the fold or the community of Adventism, so I wasn't really, I wasn't questioning, the statutes, the 27 fundamental doctrine beliefs. It was an approach to how to live your life as an Adventist that people really liked until I came out. And then that went away. The love went away real fast. All right, so here we are. We're married. We have 2 kids, 2 baby girls. Maggie is, I want to say she was 3. I thought, yeah, she was 3. Hadassah was just born.
Like 1 year old.
Yeah. Okay, Hadassah. Bye. The girls got tired, so they left to go play in the gym, I think. So, yeah. So, Maggie was 3, Hadassah was 1 year old. And we were having a really rough time in our marriage.
The marriage hit a bumpy spot.
A bumpy spot?
Some rough air.
Some massive rush. I think you have, you know what I think? I think you're so seasick from that. I think you're...
From this roller coaster ride.
From the roller coaster
it's
ride.
making me queasy.
The roller coaster ride with Rebekah. It's making you nauseous every morning.
Stop. So the point being is there was this large amount of discontent that had developed in our life.
Yeah. And, yes. So, basically, I'll give you just a quick insight here. Is like, we basically came to a point where I said to Isaac, either something's going to change or I'm leaving. And I never really thought about divorce. That word doesn't cross our lips. We don't talk in terms like that, but I was thinking more like separation, like fine, you want to be a roommate and that's all you want, then you can go live over there and I'm going to live over here, and I'm going to get credit for being a single mom.
Yeah, it was because of a disconnection, a lack of relationship. I wasn't like available at all, so it was just
Right.
this huge emotional distance.
Yeah. And like Holly, my best friend, who he was in love with, he never got over, he hadn't gotten over prior, that he was talking about just a second ago. Her and I loved melancholy guys, so thought, oh, there's deep rivers in these melancholy guys, right? And wanted to find this deep river in Isaac, and I actually married him. And so I remember calling Holly, sitting in the hallway of my office one day, crying my eyes out. Are you guys listening to me?
Sorry.
You're crying your eyes out.
I was crying my eyes out. I'm sitting in the hallway, slumped down to the floor, and I'm just sobbing on the phone to Holly, going, do you remember that river? It isn't there. Because I wanted a priest of the home. I wanted to do life together. I wanted like spiritual togetherness, and deader than a doornail.
Guilty.
Didn't care about pretty much anything. And it was getting worse. So we were quite a ways into marriage. And I was in the back of church one day. I was standing in the back, and on the screen, they had the house lights down, and they had a big movie playing or whatnot. It was like a promo for Wild at Heart retreat in Colorado by Ransomed Heart Ministries. And I was in the back and I was watching it, and I literally, like, I felt the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, say, I didn't call her that by that name back then, but I heard her say, make him go. And I just knew. I was like, they were claiming to change men's lives. So that next week, I got him into the lottery. That's a long story, a pretty cool story how he got in. He got into the lottery, and I basically bought him a plane ticket and the event, and gave him some spending money, and I handed it to him. I said, you either go or I'm leaving. It was an ultimatum. I was done. And he said, okay, well, I guess I'll go. And he's quiet, he's reserved, he's shy, whatever. And I knew that was going to be hard on him, because he's not one to enjoy, a huge auditorium with 400 men, So, but he left on a Thursday, and he came back on Sunday completely transformed. Completely transformed. Like, it blew us away. throughout the weekend, so Ransomed Heart Ministries, if you don't know, John Eldredge, do you want to?
Yeah, hand me the Wild at Heart book.
Yeah. So here's the Wild at Heart book.
Yeah, it was a men's retreat. It's a 4-day retreat in the mountains in Colorado that she basically sent me to.
Yep.
And it's based on this book, Wild at Heart, New York Times bestseller. And she gave me the book as well, which I cracked for the first time on the plane on my way there. And yeah, and you basically are encouraged to unplug for the entire weekend, so I wasn't calling back home.
Yep.
And so she didn't know what was going on. I was in the mountains of Colorado with this.
And at the same time, I had been invited to speak at some ladies' retreat, and it was a complete. I was just attacked like huge. But anyway, that's not the story tonight. But what happened that weekend was so amazing that on Sunday when he came home, when I got him from the airport, and this was before 9/11, and you could actually, was it 9/11? Yeah, anyway. No, it was after 9/11. Anyway, I could be in the airport a little bit more than you can now to watch him come. I can't watch him come out of the concourse, whatever. I watched him come out of the concourse. And from the moment he came out of the concourse to the moment, I mean, he didn't be quiet. It was so amazing.
Shut up for about 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks. So I'm in the truck. We have this old pickup truck, and we're driving. I'm driving, and he's sitting in the truck, and it's just, the crew cab, or just a cab, not a crew cab, it's a cab, old Ford. And I'm going on the freeway, and I'll never forget the lights that night. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and as you're going on the freeway and the lights are passing like this, he's over here, and he's doing this. And I'm looking at him like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. He wouldn't be quiet. The next morning, we woke up in the morning, and it's a Monday morning, and most of the time he would be like overwhelmed with the week, disillusioned, just mad. He'd be barking at the girls and barking at me, and he starts to do that, and then he stops, and he looks at me and he says, wait a minute, we need to pray about this. And I went, what? We need to do what? And he said, we need to pray. And I went, okay. And that's what I wanted so bad. And he grabbed my hands, and he took me to the wood stove, and we knelt down because it was cold. He took me over there, and his hands normally, like if he was trying to pray, yeah, like now, nice and just sticky and nervous and just relaxed. Clammy. That's how they normally were. I know, aren't I? He gave them to me. Anyway, and they were dry, and there was no hint of panic. He knelt down with me, and he started to pray, and he prayed for 10 minutes, and he prayed for me, for my day. He was just going, and I started bawling in the middle of his prayer because I thought, oh my gosh. And so when he gets done, we're on the floor still, and I'm sobbing. I'm looking at him, and he puts his hand on me like this, and he goes, I don't even know if I can do it appropriately. He goes,
too much too soon?
Too much too soon. And I went, no, bring it on. I've been waiting my whole life for this. And so for the next 3 or 4 weeks, he just wouldn't shut up. It was we made dates. We got babysitters so we could go walking and talking about what he experienced at the retreat, which is a whole nother story. And someday we'll write about it, or share that. But what was so amazing, what turned everything was, we started to look. We would go to church like the next week, and he had his eyes open to how important the heart was. He had his eyes open to, the wounds that you sustain or that you incur throughout your life, and how that's Hasatan, sending arrows to try to take out your glory. And there's so many things that he learned at the father wound and all this stuff, and it totally woke him up. He told me it was like, he woke up that weekend. It was like hanging onto a race car going about 220 miles an hour, and boom, he wakes up and he's driving, and it's like, wow, I can't believe that I'm on a racetrack and I'm driving this fast, you know. It was a pretty bizarre thing. It was wonderful. And and this weekend saved our marriage. It saved the girls from having to go through, you know, a hard childhood without a daddy around and all that stuff. We started to look at what the church was teaching.
Mm-hmm. The religion that we all came from promises transformation.
Right.
And after having experienced it, then we're looking back at this entity that has been promising that all along and continues to make those promises, and realizing that we'd never actually seen it happen.
Right.
It was not happening.
Like, where's the transformation
why?
in Christianity that it's boasts transformation, but I have never, ever seen it like I saw it on my husband. Like, and I know that there are probably some stories out there that of course, I don't know about. But my point is like, year after year, a lifetime of going to church, and I never saw that before. And so that's kind of the angle that all of a sudden we started to question things. And before I go on, I just want to show you, John Eldredge has some amazing books. He is not Messianic. He is not Hebrew. He is an Israelite who doesn't know he's an Israelite yet.
Right.
Or is in rebellion, I don't know, on some hand. But I love the message that he has been given by Yahweh to teach, and it's about the heart. There's Waking the Dead, Wild at Heart, Captivating. I ended up going to a captivating retreat that his wife put on. It's phenomenal. And it's phenomenal because I was a Christian at the time. So I'm not totally sure that with what I know now, if it would be as, you know, transforming for me now. This is one reason I want to put on a Colorado retreat for ladies of Teshuvah, because we're going to go into this, but we're going to go into it through the door of understanding the Hebraic thought and what and the Old Testament, and how that works with the New Testament and what a woman was made for. So this is a great starting point, though. The Sacred Romance, amazing book. I love that book. And then The Journey of Desire. So, and we have so many more of his books, but those are books that we went through and we started eating just constantly. And we were sitting with that information for a long time.
Several years. Mm-hmm. We just soaked in it. And it's an important detail in our story because we didn't come out of organized religion into obedience or Messianic Judaism.
Right.
We came out into freedom and the way of the heart.
Right.
And Papa brought us to that first and soaked us in that realm for years.
So for I want to say 7, but I think it was more like 5 years. We just soaked in. King Solomon said, guard your heart above all costs, for from it flows everything, you know. And Yeshua talked about the heart, you know, the good seed, the seed falling on different kinds of soils of the heart and stuff. And so we really sat with John Eldredge and what he was teaching for a long time, and it's literally saved our marriage, and it brought us out of the church. That's how we came out. And I know a lot of people have asked, how'd you come out, through which teacher? It actually was through John Eldredge. We got dissatisfied with what our church was speaking. So after he came back from the retreat, we'd go to church and we'd be like, wait, what are you talking about? Number one, you're supposed to teach Mary Magdalene's story every single time the gospel's told, and we didn't hear it, you know. They were ignoring the heart completely. They were stupid sermons that had nothing to do with anything. And
and there was no Ruach, or the Spirit.
There was no
not leading in real time.
Right.
And so we were looking at what was missing, and instead of sitting back and grumbling, we basically, long story short, left to go do it ourselves.
We did.
And then invite people from the church to our thing. So the ministry just started almost immediately.
So we actually, I can hear those basketball players. Sorry, guys. So we actually, I helped start one of the church that we were a part of, And at the time when we were coming out through this understanding, our church was dividing at that point. It was a pretty intense time in the church family, and it was doing this horrible rip. And so many of our friends were just trying to figure out what to do. And we thought it was perfect timing to have this come forward, because we thought, oh, we'll take the people that are frustrated, and we'll go over here and we'll create a church over here based on, the heart. That didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. And that's another long story. But we've started what we called the Round Table in Land of Iona. So we went through several years while we were trying to find fellowship with people who wanted to understand the heart, who wanted to journey in that way. We found 3 people, David and Sharice and Tiffany. Amazing, amazing people. And so then the 5 of us with all our kids started this, and we would rent Grange halls, and I put together some movies and information, trying to find people who wanted to come alive, who wanted to learn about the heart and how it works, and approach Christianity and in a different way, in a more biblical way at the time, what I was thinking. So we had them for a while, and spent a lot of time trying to minister to the area, but ended up that there just wasn't the interest. We couldn't build enough of a community to provide what people needed.
Yeah, there's quite a few different people that would show up once or twice and be impacted by it, but then we go right back.
Yeah. So what happened was I want to show you these books. We started to, so during this time of Ransomed Heart, or not Ransomed Heart, the journey through Ransomed Heart, but with the Round Table that we started to read a book called Pagan Christianity. Hadassah, you want to show that book? Just take it right up there and kind of put it. It's called Pagan Christianity. And it just started to blow us away when we started realizing, there you go, Pagan Christianity. I have to mention Hadassah, come here. I'm going to have you show these 2 books too. Let me have that one. So I have to just show you a couple books that really impacted me prior to Ransomed Heart. These 2 are through a guy who is on the edge of Adventism, Ty Gibson. Literally, See with New Eyes, crazy beautiful book that helped me see, begin to get new eyes to see. And then show them the other one, Hadassah. This is the Endless Falling in Love. It's all about Yahweh's heart towards us. Totally beautiful books. So that's okay, Hadassah. Good, thank you. These are books that really impacted my journey. So this is what I'm showing you today. I pulled books to bring to show you books that have been crucial in our walk to take us down, just a little bit closer to the narrow path and out of Christianity. Because we didn't come out of Christianity mad. We were frustrated.
Right.
But we weren't ticked off, were we?
I was, briefly.
You were? Are you still?
Yeah, but we had come out through this understanding of the heart, and so there was a process in a spirit-led method to deal with that.
Right.
To move through that process into forgiveness and letting go and moving on.
Right.
So there was like a healthy
way
process in place for us already to handle those things as we begin to, eject.
Right, which is, I think, is what a lot of people now are missing in this movement. People that come out of Christianity are so upset and not healed, or they don't handle things, how do I say it? They don't handle things in a healthy way when they come out. And the movement kind of attracts some people that have a really, I don't even know how to describe it, like just control issues. They have just so many issues. Their heart isn't healed. This is one thing that I talk about. Like, if your heart's not healed, like, you're going to respond and react to, being handed lies your whole life, kind of poorly.
Yeah, there's a lot of corporate grief, corporate anger and resentment that's carried into this movement and there's no mechanism in place, no heart understanding of how to process and let go of that in a systematic, healthy way.
Yeah.
And so it ends up kind of just festering and then coming out, laterally.
Right. That's what you were talking
against
about
each other in the movement and against the leadership, because you can't go back and, we can't go back and slap the ancients, in
the face
around. We can't scoff at them. We can't go back and we've been, lied to by our ancestors, but the ancestors aren't around, and so there's no place to direct our frustration and all our angst.
Except laterally, like you're saying. So
once our eyes get opened.
That's the frustrating thing. We were talking about this just the other night, is that there's no structure in this movement like there was in church. So in the Seventh-day Adventist movement, in the Seventh-day Adventist church, you have, the general conference, and then the, regionals and all this stuff, and then it goes down to the pastor and the lay people. So you could work your way up the ladder to get mad. You had a place to put your angst in, and you also had a place to feel like you had a place. You could find a place in this structure. And now this structure, this movement is so chaotic. It's so out over everywhere. There's no one to blame. So you go this way, you get mad at each other, and there's no structure to feel like you have a place, which is extremely hard when you come out of a situation where you've had a place, you've been able to help lead song service, you've been involved in church, in the youth ministry, you've been involved in speaking and pastoring, you've been, and now all of a sudden you see the light, you have eyes to see, and you come out, and then where's your flock? How do you preach? That's on your heart to do. How do you do child evangelism? How do you work in a youth department when there's no youth department? You got to make your audience. You got to find that. And this has been a huge struggle for us.
Yeah, there's a lack of an outlet.
Yeah, lack of an outlet.
Rebekah, and for probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
And might not even realize it. Yeah. But this huge changes going on in your life, and all this new truth and stuff, and there's this desire that it needs to go into you,
but then share with everyone,
through you and out, and there's nowhere for it to go, and it's like somebody just stuck a cork in the exhaust pipe, and
that's what it feels like. And so then people do that, and they get mad laterally, and then they hurt each other. But back to our story for a little bit. We started reading the Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola.
Yeah, and so this isn't like some of the Messianic books that are out. This is not about exposing the pagan roots of holidays and stuff. This is by a Christian author, not Messianic, and it's talking about the Christian roots of everything that is done in a church service.
Yeah. The pews,
the way people dress up for church, the elevated platform, a paid preacher, a weekly gathering, all this
potluck,
stuff.
the whole thing.
Just down the line, many things you wouldn't even think of, offering and taking all those back to their pagan roots.
Right. And so for us, we had no understanding yet when we read this about how the Old Testament, the Torah, and how, we hadn't even gone there yet. All we knew was that we were starting to see that the service itself was pagan. And so, the way you go to church every single day at a certain time and blah, 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 those things were pagan. And that started to give us eyes to see, which is why you will not find us at this point doing a service like a normal church service.
This part of the picture is missing in this movement. Yeah. As many people come out and they have this programmed, indoctrinated urge to congregate and they end up recreating church.
Yeah.
In a new place.
Right.
And continuing all these pagan
things.
Practices
so the
that
church,
aren't
the
talked
pews,
about. Just continue and get propagated in this, carried right over into this movement. So.
Yeah. And close the I was going to say close the door, girls. It's loud. Yeah, so that's why, like, when we see the Messianic movement, we're like, the Messianic movement is just another church. It's just another religion, because you've got all the components of the same sort of things going on. You've got pews, you've got elevated platform, you've got a paid position who's speaking to you every week. The same person is speaking as if they can speak every week on every single subject. I don't know. Like, anyway, this was crucial to our journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you don't like, for example, the dressing up thing was a status thing. Like, that was huge. And then the pew, you could rent part of your pew, and you could actually, in the beginning, the pew actually had walls to it. So the upper class didn't have to sit next to the lower class. So the upper class rented their space to sit there so they could be set apart or protected from the, the poor people. And
they could build walls around it and a little roof over it, and they could decorate it.
Yeah, and they decorate it, and it's just insane. Okay, so another really incredible book that took us onto a new part of discovering Yahweh's heart towards us, Papa's heart towards us. It's called God of the Possible, and it's by Greg Boyd. So if you want, he's going to show you that. This is a very how do you say that? Controversial subject, but for us it was really important to understand the foreknowledge of Yahweh. So I'm not going to go into that right now, but this was crucial for us to begin to understand that Yahweh works in real time with people, that there are some things as settled and some things as not. And you actually have freedom, true freedom, to make a choice. And for us, this was huge because, the church says you're free and you've been given free will, but then almost like in the next breath, they say, well, he knows everything. So if he knows everything, he's predestined you. And it says in the scriptures that you're predestined, but Israel was predestined. What it means is Israel was predestined to choose Yahweh. Israel was predestined to obey. Predestined as in, you are predestined, you are my husband now, but it's your choice of whether you love me or not. And so it's kind of like that. You. Okay, good. Mwah. Okay, but anyway, this was crucial in our journey. So I will put that link there if you want to get that. Hey Maggie, what time is it? And Greg Boyd's stuff is amazing. Hand down. 3:43. Okay, so we got a little bit of time left. All right, now we're going to get to how we actually began to see this understanding with, oh wow, we need to be doing something and obeying and come out of the church.
Yeah.
All right, so
right
we used to rent Grange halls to do the round table stuff in. So we knew this Grange hall really well that we chose to do this in. So we came up to, and this is our very last Christmas that we didn't know it at the time, but what I knew was the Christmas season was full of pitfalls. So the Christmas before, we had celebrated with our family, so we had lots of family over in our home, and the whole family broke into this huge fight because the little kids went over to the Christmas tree and they started opening the presents before we said they could. It's a long story. But anyway, I don't even like to rehearse it really, but huge family fight, left mad, it was just awful. The next year, we decided that we didn't want to have we didn't want to have people over to our house anymore for Christmas. So we decided that because Christmas time can be pretty lonely for a lot of people, that we were going to provide a community Christmas dinner. And so we rented the Grange Hall for the whole day of Christmas, first to December 25th, 24th and 25th. We rented the Grange Hall. We decorated it. We had 3 trees. We had a children's area with movies. We had 2 huge tables with white tablecloths. We had turkeys, and we cooked for the whole thing. we had it advertised. I had it advertised on the radio. I had a news spot on the TV. I had the front page of the newspaper.
The newspaper?
I had it posters everywhere. And basically what it was is, if you're lonely for Christmas, then come on over and don't be lonely. I didn't even say, I opened it up to everyone. The homeless could come for a free dinner. It was, we spent so much money on doing it that way. We didn't buy presents for each other that year. This is what we spent our money on, because we wanted so much to, I knew what it was like to be lonely on this day. I mean, when I was single, I remember going over to my friend Christian's house at 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, and I showed up in my slippers and my nightie out front, and I go, can I just watch you guys open your presents, because I'm so lonely? So I understood what it felt like. At that point, I didn't have eyes to see it. I had no idea. But we're there. The news reporter comes in the morning that day, on December 25th, came in the morning, did an interview with us, and said, okay, we're so excited. We can't wait to come back. We're going to bring the cameras. We're going to come back and do a story on you when everybody gets here.
Yep.
She comes back at like 5 at night, or 4 or 5 at night, when we're supposed to be in full swing. We have all the food ready. It's all out on the tables. Guess how many people came?
The reporter showed up to do the story, and she walks in and she says, where's the story?
Yep. She said, where's the story? Not one person came.
She said, where is everybody?
Not one person came. We were blown away. The news reporter was in shock.
Yeah.
Could not believe that no one would come to partake in a free meal on Christmas Day. And we went home in tears, got our 2 very big dogs, came back and had our own little dinner together there, and took it all down by ourselves, and just basically put our tail between our legs and left after we cleaned up.
Oh.
We spent so much money on that, and just could not believe it.
A sad story.
It was a very sad story, but this is what Papa did. So it was the next year that we came out, and the next year is when we got eyes to see, because what I didn't know at the time was Papa was saying, girlfriend, you are not going to be inviting people to come to that holiday, the pagan holidays. You, girlfriend, are going to be on a mission to invite people to my holidays, my holy days. And I didn't know that he was doing that at the time, but that is exactly what happened, because that next year is when we came out. I wasn't sure if it was time, but I thought y'all need to hear our story. And let me tell you, every single part of these little like tracks or whatnot down these paths, I mean, I could go off for an hour or 2 on each one, like, the John Eldredge part of our life, when we looked into the foreknowledge of Yehovah, and just all these different aspects, that all of it was about bringing us freedom. And this leads right into it, because we were being set free, and we walked in freedom literally for, I think it was 5 years or so. Uh-huh. And then basically the question began to arise in our hearts. This was after this Christmas thing, and it was so devastating to us that some other things started coming up some questions that we had to answer. And it basically began to be, all right, so we're free now to do what? So John Eldredge talks a lot about, finding your heart out in nature, going fishing, and I had actually taken up figure skating as an adult. So I was an adult figure skater during this time of finding freedom. So I would get up, I was on the team, not on the team, I was training with the team, and a lot of those girls were going to the Olympics. I was just one of the adults that was training at the same time that they were. I had one of their coaches who was coaching me. And basically, as an adult, you can go to nationals, or you, as a kid, you can go to Olympics. So I was on the adult track, and I tested a couple levels up, and I could have kept going. Just ended up, I'll tell you that, we ran out of money. But for a few years there, while we were learning about the heart, I wanted so bad to like explore my heart in this way of being a figure skater. So that was part of the journey. Isaac kind of delved into fishing and some other things that was, you know, good for the heart. But then it really became, what are we like, you know, going to do? Is this all this is? Freedom? We found this freedom to go fishing, go to the mountains and sit on a rock and hear Yahweh talk to us, or go to the gym or go to the skating rink. And I mean, though those things were really good and really needed at the time, we really began to question, wait a minute, we're set free to do what? What did Yeshua set us free to do? And that became the question. That was not answered in John Eldredge's books.
Right.
That wasn't answered in any of the books that we had. Free to do what?
Yeah.
So we actually, I'll never forget.
Yeah.
I was at the UPS store, and I was on the phone with my friend Karen, and I was frustrated with stuff. I think it had to do with Shabbat. I can't remember. So we used to call it Sabbath as Adventists, and we changed the name from Sabbath to Shabbat. We took the Hebrew name to try to really divide our life as a Seventh-day Adventist to our new life when we crossed over. And just as a side note, it took me, I got my name off the books. It took me 9 months to get my name off the Seventh-day Adventist books. And it took 9 months because they knew me so well, they didn't want to lose me. And so they actually, they made it a little difficult for me to I couldn't just disappear. I had to, I wrote them a reason why and all that stuff. Anyway, that was later. But I was sitting in the parking lot at UPS store talking to my friend. I'll never forget the angle I was sitting. I'll never forget the sunshine. I just remember it to every detail. And she goes, it's time. And I said, it's time for what? What is it time for? And she goes, it's time. She's so funny. And she said, okay, I'm going to put something on your porch swing, and I want you to watch it. And I said, okay. So I get home, and there on the porch swing is VHS's 30 hours of Michael Rood's Feast of the Lord on our front porch. The complete series.
Prophecies in the Spring and Fall Feast set on VHS. On VHS.
And we had a TV upstairs. We had a little bed and breakfast, and upstairs we used to house college students who would rent the upstairs from us. And so we had a new college student coming, and there was a VHS thing upstairs. And
the only VHS player we had was in a TV set that was built in this room that we rented out.
Right. So I put the DVD set. I was like, I kind of rolled my eyes, and I put the DVD set up, kind of in my closet, and for the summer, because this was the beginning of the summer, and the new student was going to arrive at the end of summer for the fall semester. And so I looked at this set, and I'm like, okay, I got to get this back to my friend. I guess we need to watch this now. So we went upstairs, Isaac and I, and we put it in. And first of all, we were like, long-bearded, long-haired, long-bearded, fat guy in a robe. I'm not going to listen to this guy.
Like, who is this guy?
We're like, who is this guy? Michael Rood, whatever. And he's so rude.
I know.
But we started watching, and our mouths were on the floor. Like, literally, we needed that. It was like a punch. It was like a slap. It was like, wake up, boom, boom, boom. That's what we got from Michael. 30 hours. I mean, we literally stayed up there for hours at a time watching, and then we had to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Then we go back and do more, watch some more, talk and talk and talk and talk. It was like being born again. Hey, I think that's what it's like.
Just soaked it up.
Soaked it up.
For weeks.
I think it only took us a couple weeks, 30 hours of Michael Rood, and we were transformed. We did a 180. We teshuva so fast. It wasn't.
There was no hesitation. Yeah. We didn't have to go, well, we have to like study and become an expert. It was like, boom, we just soaked it up.
Yeah.
And no looking back. It
was like instant. We knew he was speaking the truth. We knew this is what we were set free to do. So we had all this heart preparation. Yahweh was making good soil in our hearts to be able to receive this truth. Mm-hmm. And man, those seeds were sown and they sprouted so fast and just shot up beautiful. The fruit and the roots went deep real fast. It was like we were made for this. It wasn't like we questioned everything or anything. It rang true so fast. 2 DVD sets called Feast of the Lord. Those are on DVD now because I got those later so I could keep them. There you go. You just go straight up into the, there you go. Go straight up. There you go. Get rid of me. Don't look at me. There you go.
You want to cover you?
Yeah, cover me.
You know, everybody has that, probably has that story of that teacher or that was fortunate enough to be the one in their life at that moment when you like woke up that you'll never forget.
Yeah.
That you'll always be like grateful and indebted to and endeared to for the rest of your life. For us, that's Michael Rood.
For us it's Michael Rood, John Eldredge and Michael Rood. So I know Michael Rood last year had a little contest where he wanted to take somebody who had the best story of how they first got to know Michael Rood and the story, how they came out. He was going to take them to Israel, and I was like, oh, I want to go with Michael. So I wrote out my story and sent it in, and he ended up reading it on air one Shabbat night live. He read it, and there's numbers. He had numbers on the stories that were closest to the top, and I was number. Was
it 3?
I think I was number 4. So I was close. I was close to winning. He liked my story. He read it online on air. It was pretty cool. But that's a crucial part of this story. That's how we came out. Was just got jolted awake, and for us, since we were already set free from Christianity, basically, and we'd lost church family. At that point, we had lost a lot or surrendered a lot. So it was pretty easy we had eyes to see. It was just, we needed, what do we see with the viewpoint? It was just amazing. And it was literally like, I think the fall feast came like within like a month of that.
Yeah, because I think that was during the summer.
That was at the end of the summer.
When we first saw those and soaked them up.
And Madison was going to come like that into that month.
Yeah, for the fall semester.
So instantly I was like, oh my gosh, Yom Teruah is almost here, which Feast of Trumpets, I was still learning how to say the words, say the names of the feast. I was still learning. This is cool. We used to lay in bed. I don't know if you remember Hadassah, but we would lay in bed, Maggie, and we would say his name. Yahweh, Elohim, Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, we started like saying his name, I'll never forget laying in bed in the dark, just saying his name. Like I never said his name before, and I just couldn't believe that I got to say his name, that I had been held back from that for my whole life. Like I had been lied to. I had been, I hadn't learned his name. Nobody had taught me his name, and all of a sudden somebody taught me his name, and I just wanted to say it over and over, so it just came off my lips, And Hadassah, when she was really little, she could transliterate the scriptures. So we would be like reading the scriptures, and she'd be able to say, in place of God, she would say Yahweh or Elohim or Yeshua in place of Jesus. So that was something that we did right away. But the other thing that we learned real quickly was we were like, okay, so these are feasts that we need to be keeping. Now the calendar it became an issue. Not an issue. It became like, well, let's figure out what calendar. So
a real necessity because we hadn't, we never just plugged into a Messianic congregation when we came out.
Right.
And so knowing when we're going to celebrate this feast became a necessity right away.
Yeah. And the reason why we did not just get hooked up with the nearest Messianic congregation is because we knew at that point we had enough freedom to know that was just another church, and we had already come out, and we didn't want to go back into a church situation. So we didn't just go there automatically. We wanted to to spend time with Papa. We didn't want to see, we didn't want to know what somebody else was doing. We really wanted to let our hearts speak. And this is where, coming from the aspect of freedom and at the level of the heart and understanding the heart, that's what flavors our ministry so much, and that's what really sets us apart from other ministries here. Is
big time.
Yeah, because we understand the heart and how the heart works, and so that flavors everything. And we really wanted to sit with that feast. We didn't need someone else to tell us how to do it. We thought, Papa will show us. The Ruach HaKodesh will show us. We'll read in the scriptures what he needs us to do, and then we'll play in them. And I literally heard Papa say, I want to see you play in the feasts, Rebekah. Like play, like enjoy, like delight. Hello? We're supposed to delight in his ways and his cycles. In the Psalms it says, lead me in paths of righteousness. It actually says, lead me in cycles of righteousness. So we wanted to play in those cycles. So one of the things, since Michael Rood had not led us wrong, we looked into his calendar. So here's the Creator's calendar. There you go. Don't put my head up there. You're cut my head out. So the Creator's calendar, we watched all the stuff on that. It made so much sense. It was biblically sound. Nehemiah Gordon was with him. Now, I get a lot of flack. For supporting Nehemiah Gordon, a Karaite Jew, and a lot of flack for supporting Michael Rood. But these guys are awesome. They know what they're talking about. They've studied it for 40 years combined, plus with Keith Johnson and a whole bunch of others. I mean, to say to someone who has studied their whole life, whose stuff lines up with Scripture, and who really dedicate their life to trying to teach us the right way, to say, hey, I know more than you because I've studied for a year, that's a slap in the face, and that's really dishonoring and disrespectful to somebody that Yahweh has called. Obviously, Yahweh has called him. Obviously, Yahweh has called Keith Johnson and Nehemiah Gordon to teach us the Creator's calendar. So this we live by. We know what the other calendars are out there, and they are not the biblical calendar. This is the biblical calendar: Aviv, barley, and sighted moon. So anyway, I don't need to go off on that, but this was really important in our journey. It was huge. Okay, so just springing forward to the first feast. So here we watched 30 hours of Michael Rood, and then we get to the fall feast, and I called my friend Karen, who I was on the phone with that day in the UPS parking lot, and I said, Karen, do you want to come to the Feast of Trumpets? And she said, yeah. And so little did I know that they had been closet feast keepers for 12 years. They hadn't told anybody that they were celebrating the feast. They were going to Sunday church and everything, and all of a sudden, they're going to come out because I'm inviting them to come. And I invited as many people as I could. And we get down, I'm thinking feast. So I'm playing in the feast. So I'm thinking feast. So I'm thinking Yom Teruah, it's about the king coming. I'm like, well, it's the new moon, it's the seventh new moon, so we've got to be out somewhere where we can see the sky. And we've got to be somewhere and I got to put beauty out. And all I kept thinking was we got to be on the beach. So we have a beautiful lake here and a big white sand beach. So you helped. We just got some milk crates with planks. I got a beautiful tablecloth. I had everyone bring blankets to sit on because it was going to get chilly at night and whatnot. And then we got tiki torches and put them in the ground, in the sand. And the girls and I that day, we had invited so many people, but we didn't have any special dishes. So we went out to the Goodwill or St. Vinny's, and we looked around everywhere for the same dishes. Do you remember, Hadassah? I didn't even count them. I got wine glasses and dish and plates, and everything else was finger food. So we went out and got and I literally I didn't count. We ran home, we washed them, got them down to the beach, and literally I had 25 plates and glasses, and 25 people came. And to me, that was like Papa putting his fingerprints on it and saying, good, well done. But Karen, so Karen, closet feast keeper for a long time, they come down to the beach, and Joel and Karen are like blown away because they were thinking that there's going to be like card table.
Like a picnic on the beach.
Like a picnic, like a potluck, like card table, plastic or paperware, and and when she saw the long kingdom table spread with beautiful food and wine glasses, and we were making juice at the time. We had Kingdom Cellars juice, a label. And when she saw all that and the beautiful, she was undone. And literally, she thanks me very often for just showing her. And literally, she had been celebrating the feast longer than me, but I just opened up this possibility for her of celebrating it in a way that actually is a celebration, beautiful. It was pretty cool. That was an amazing. That was probably one of my favorites. There was Maggie shaking her head there too. I didn't know what we were doing. We just wanted to honor the day and begin this process of learning how to celebrate the feast. So we got 2 books during that time: Israel's Feasts in Their Fullness by Batya Wooten, and then The Feast of the Lord by Kevin Howard and Marvin Rosenthal. And these 2 books kind of guided us into what the feast was about and how our brother Judah has celebrated them. So maybe, here, do you want to hold that up to them? So you can see, just to see, these 2 books are kind of some I used to default to all the time. I will put links up there for you. Okay, so the approach to the feast was basically delighting in them. Okay, Isaac. So our approach to the feast became delighting in them. How do you delight in them? And literally, it became one feast right after another, because as soon as Yom Teruah was done, then it was Yom Kippur, and we're like, okay, now how? So once Yom Teruah was done, then we started studying about Yom Kippur. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward just a little bit because I've only got 10% left on my battery. Oh. And I can't plug it in, so I will have to finish this later. That is, the Feast of the Lord became the new rhythm by which we lived our life. And it was that first year, since our eyes were open, we thought everybody's eyes should be opened at the same time. We were so anxious to have everyone see what and we thought it would be a duh. We didn't think anybody would have an issue with it. We were like, of course everybody will show them how that the pagan roots of Christmas, and everybody will want to come on board. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. We went from pretty well connected to pretty outcast pretty quickly, within our families, within our friends. The church family at the time had been we'd been in and out with fellowship, but as soon as we ended up walking in this rhythm and not their rhythm, it was pretty huge. Huge loss, a huge, people didn't know what we were doing or why we were doing it, and they didn't really ask, and if they did ask, they didn't want to hear what we were saying. They didn't want to hear about it. So it became a very lonely road after that, but I was so excited about the feast, and I was so in love with them and Yahweh and his rhythm that it didn't matter. We would ask people off the street, because you know how he says, there's that wedding feast, and he's like, he sends a servant, and they kill the servant, to come to the feast, and then he's like, I have to have people at the feast for my son, so just go out in the highways and the byways and find people to come and fill the table. That's what we were doing. We were inviting anyone, and I wanted to invite people not only for their sake but for my kids' sake, because I really wanted them to have fellowship at feast time. I wanted them to really know that this was going to be a great time, that they were, I wanted to attach their heart. Something I always say is the heart only trades up, which is something that John Eldredge taught us. The heart trades up, and so if you don't provide something for the children to attach to, that's better than the Christmassy stuff, then they're going to remember the old lovers, and we're going to remember the old lovers. So I really was hot to trot on making every single feast something beautiful, and we spent all our money on them, and bought what we could to make them absolutely beautiful, and explore the feast. So we would explore it right before the feast like I say all the time too, is like you want to know what to study, you look at the upcoming feast and you study that. That's his lesson plan. That's what he wants to talk to you about now. Right now it's about Hanukkah. It's about dedication, about cleansing your heart. That's what he wants to talk to us personally about and corporately. So anyway, I think that is enough for today. Just that's how we came out. That was many, many years ago. That was John Eldredge started in 2003 is when we started coming out. Mm-hmm. So I think we've been celebrating the feast, I want to say 13 years, something like that. And I think it's been about 13 years now. And I've got more to share on this, how we got freedom from the prophet of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Huge story. It's a Hanukkah story, Hanukkah cleansing story. How we found covenant, the covenant that backed Melchizedek future book came to be, how we found the Melchizedek covenant, not the Levitical law, but the actual everlasting law that we keep. Also this understanding what the Ezer Kenegdo is about. So it's been quite a long process and a journey for us, and I think there's so much more we could talk about. The wilderness time that we went through. As soon as we came into covenant, he started cutting us free from everything, and we ended up, with loss of everything, and living on the mountain for 4 years in the wilderness, finding Jim Staley's Crisis Identity in Crisis video.
Oh, yeah.
Trying and learning that we are Ephraim, part of Israel, and learning to accept that we are Israelites. That was huge. So there's a lot more to cover on our story, but for now, I think that's a good start.
Yeah, let's make it a two-part.
It's a two-parter? Shall we do a two-parter? I don't know. And then we're going to send you out with a song that we dance to called Pata Pata, a song that we dance to every Hanukkah. Okay? So we're almost out of power, so I'm going to have you do this, Hadassah.
Hi. My name is Hadassah, and I just want to read a verse, what light is about. That's what I want to read.
Go ahead. Read.
It says, work hard to feed hungry people, satisfy the needs of those who are crushed. Then my blessing will light up your darkness, and the night of your suffering will become as bright as the noonday sun.
Nice.
Isaiah 58:10 is where it is.